Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. Hello and welcome. I'm using the Love from Lizi February card kit, and our first card is a floating gatefold panel card. For this card, you'll need a card base that measures 12 by 6 and scored at 3 and 9, and this will give you your gatefold card base. Next, I have some patterned papers that I'll use to embellish the inside and outside, as well as this piece. It measures 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, and this will go inside our gatefold card. Now I'm showing you the strips of paper and the washi tape I used to embellish the bottom, and the little piece of the pattern paper was an offcut from the two panels that I'm going to use for the inside. So I have 4 pieces of patterned paper. These two are going to go on the front. They measure 2 3/4 by 5 3/4, and I've embellished them using some of the washi tape. And the washi tape came in the kit, and I think it's just lovely to embellish your card with. So these two panels will sit on the front of our card, and inside then we'll use these two panels. They're the same size as the ones on the front, and they're going to embellish the front of our card because our card will be displayed open, but it can be displayed closed if you like. I've also got this long strip of white card, and it measures 1.5 by 11 3/4, and the 11 3/4 is the standard size of the A4 card I use. When it's wrapped around my card, it won't meet in the middle, but I'll use this little piece of ephemera, this little coffee to go cup, and that will actually close the whole thing around. So that I'll use with the belly band. I'm going to use the larger one and this little pair of trainers for inside, and these will be our little pop-up pieces that when you open the card, these will pop up inside. So we'll have our white card there in the center, and these two strips are going to be our mechanism. They measure 3 inches by 1/2 inch, and I've scored them every 3/4 of an inch. So they'll fold over like that, and on each end I've put some red liner tape, and that's to adhere them to the card. So one piece is going to attach down to our white panel, and the other piece with the red liner tape will attach to our side panels, and that way it'll allow the card to open and close, and our little piece, our sneakers or a coffee cup, will sit on top like that. So there you go. That's how our two little icons are going to pop up from inside. So let's go ahead, speed everything up now and assemble our card. For my cards today, I'm going to be using liquid glue to adhere most everything down. I'll be using my art glitter glue as well as some Collal glue. The art glitter glue will it adheres quicker to your card than the Collal. The Collal gives you a little bit of wiggle room when you're actually sticking something down, but when it dries hard, so it gives a strong, stable finish to your project that you're making. But for this card, I'm using the art glitter glue. So I have my outside panel stuck down, I have my center panel, and this is where I'll be able to write my message, and now my little side panels. Once they're stuck down, I'll give them a minute or two to dry. I want to make sure that they're dried properly onto my card base before I go pulling and dragging using the mechanisms that I'm going to be sticking down. So as I said, I have some red liner tape on each end of these mechanisms. Now, before I stick anything down, as in these icons, I want to make sure that when they're sitting up against the side panel, that they're going to move okay. So make sure that the edge of your cup or the sneakers doesn't go past the edge of the mechanism that's going to stick on there. I think you can just see that. So I've slowed everything back down, and I have zoomed in so you can see what I'm doing. So I have the red liner tape on one side I've taken the release paper off. I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way, what's the easiest way for you to see what I'm going to do. So I'm deciding where I want my sneakers to be. I don't want to put them up too high or too low. So I'm just eyeballing it there. Now, this side where my finger is pressing down, this is up next to the score line, but not on it. That way it'll allow my little piece to fold over and back. So now I'm going to take the release tape off the other end. And once I have that on, I'm going to keep it flat the way you can see it here, and then fold over my panel. So I found that's the best way. Hold it against your piece and then fold it down, and there you go. You have your little mechanism there, and it'll fold flat, which is brilliant. So I'm just going to put a little pressure onto the tape using my scoring tool just to make sure it's adhered properly. So we're going to do the same now for the other side. We'll take off our red liner tape, and I'll put it up there against the left hand side panel, and then I'll do the same. I was just checking to make sure that it's going to move okay. Hold that flat down and then press down with that. Perfect. That's our two little icons, our ephemera pieces inside. Now for the belly band. So I'm going to make sure my card is centered on the long strip of card. Fold it around, not too tight and not too loose. You want the card to be able to slide in and out, but you don't want it to fall through. So I've put a little bit of glue around the edge of the coffee cup, and then that way with a little bit of pressure, make sure that that's stuck down, and it has, and that should hold perfectly. So my belly band will slide down over the card. It'll keep our card closed, and then the recipient will open our card. And there you go, that's card 1. Now we're moving on to card number 2, and this is a stepper card, and this is a 6x6 stepper card, and for it you're going to need to use a 12x12 piece of card. So I've cut my 12x12 in half. I want a strip of 12x6 and score it then at 6. This is going to give me my 6x6 card base. With the other piece that measures 12x6, I'm going to score it at 6 and 9, and that's going to give us our stepper part on the front. So this piece here is going to either stick onto the front of our card base, or I can stick it behind the front of the card base, and that's what I'm going to do. I think it gives a neater finish to do it that way. So lovely, that's our stepper card base, and you can make yours any size you like. My cards are just here to inspire you. My white panel here measures 5 3/4 by 2 3/4, and the pattern paper strip measures 1/2 inch by 5 1/2, and that's going to sit on the very front, our step part. I have a white panel here. I actually have 2, and these 2 will measure 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, and then this pattern paper measures 5 1/2 by 5 1/2. So this will sit on the front of our card, and then my other white panel here, this will sit inside. And I have a little strip of the patterned paper, and this is 1/2 inch by 5 3/4, and I've already stamped my sentiment. The Enjoy Your Day is a stamp from my stash, as well as the sending birthday wishes. So that'll go inside like so. Lovely. So now I'm going to use a die from my stash. I have this happy birthday die, and I've die cut it out 3 times in holographic card. I've then stuck it down to a white piece of white card, and I fussy cut using my Fisker scissors around that to give it the look of a shadow behind it. I wanted my happy birthday sentiment to pop from the patterned paper. I've also got my piece of ephemera, my 2 girls here, and I have cut the border down. It has a wider border, and I prefer it a little thinner, so I fussy cut that down as well myself. So my girls will probably sit in the middle like this, and I have 2 of the ephemera cookies, and I also have this little cookie. I might put it on the inside, but for a finish I'm going to put it on the outside near where the happy birthday is. So now let's speed everything up and assemble our cards. So for this part I'm using the Collal Glue. This piece of my card is going to stick inside the 6x6 card base. And I want to make sure that when that dries, it's nice and solid. And I find the Collal Glue will do that. It gives a great finish on your projects. Now I'm going to go ahead and use the Collal Glue for the rest of this because it works perfectly fine and it'll give me a little wiggle room when I'm putting down the mats and layers. So that's the front large panel down now on our card. Now we'll work on our little stepper panel. Lovely. And as I said, the Collal Glue gives me a little bit of wiggle room there to make sure that my panels are on evenly. So that's our inside panel. And now for our ephemera. And I have put foam tape behind the ephemera pieces and my happy birthday piece. Just gives a bit of dimension to the card, but you don't have to do this if you don't want to. So I'm going to trim down the bottom of the little edge piece there. And I'm only putting glue behind the girls where they're going to be set on the card. I'll pop down my little cookies. They're so cute, these little heart cookies. And I'm deciding whether I'd put that third piece on the front of the stepper, but I'm going to put that up beside the happy birthday. I think it draws your eye up. Okay, perfect. Now I've used a little punch from my stash and I've punched out some hearts. I'm going to put 5 of them on the front of the card. I'm also going to use some Glossy Accents and I'm going to embellish the little, little fruits and little clovers on my cookies, as well as the flowers in the girl's hair. And once I've that done, I'm going to take my Wink of Stella and I'm going to brush some of that over the girl's hair as well. In the kit we got some sequins, but I didn't use any on my cards, my 5 cards today, but I do use them and will use them on other cards that I'll make. So there we go now, just use some of the Glossy Accents and I find that it just gives a little shine and adds a little something to the card, but you don't need to use this at all if you don't want to. And there we are now, that's card number 2, our stepper card using the Love from Lizi February card kit. I love that, I think it's really different. Okay, so now we're moving on to card number 3, and card 3 is an easel card. My card base measures 12 by 6 and I've scored it at 3 and 6, and that will allow for our panel to stand. I've used my creative nestables and these are octagonal dies, and this octagonal frame is 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. I have 2 pieces of 5 3/4 by 5 3/4 white card. One will be for the front and one for the inside. And I have this die cut pattern piece using again the octagonal dies, and this is a 4 by 4 patterned piece. And it'll sit inside our green frame, giving a white frame around it. I've got again one of the 2 little girls. I've die cut and stamped out the So Lucky, and I've used the matching green card. I have a little bit of foam tape on one side because the other side I'll stick to the girls. This strip of patterned paper is 1 inch by 5 3/4. I've foam tape behind that because this is going to be the mechanism that will allow our easel card to stay standing. I have some of the stamps here that came in the kit, and I'll use one of these on the inside of the card. So our card will read So Lucky on the outside and then To Call You Friend inside. So I'm going to go ahead now and stick down all our panels and speed everything up. So I'll decide in a little while where I want the strip, how much I want my easel to sit up. First of all, I'm going to sit my octagonal frame. This frame is 1/2 inch wide. And as you can see there, when it's set onto the front of the card, I have a little green border going around it. I didn't want it just to be a white card on the front with the frame. I wanted it to have a green little border. So hence the reason I cut that to 5 3/4. Lovely. So now I'm going to stick down my pattern paper inside the panel because I have enough of dimension on the frame as well as on the girls. So I'm just deciding where I want to put them. And I've decided I'm going to put the So Lucky together. So I'll move the girls over to the left-hand side of our frame. Now I need another little piece of foam tape there to give it a bit of stability, but I'll put glue on the other end and then attach that to the girls. And then we'll put down our So Lucky. Perfect. Now our strip I'm going to put inside, and I've come up about 1 1/4 inches from the bottom, but you can come up as far or as low as you like. I just feel it gives a big area there inside where I can write my message, and that won't be seen then when the card is stood up. In hindsight, I think I should have put the "to call you friend" on the other side of the patterned paper, so when the card is open you would see it, but I'm happy enough with it inside. Now I want to embellish the front of the card. I'm going to use 2 of the clovers as well as 2 of the clovers that are on, I don't know how to describe them, they're like tassels. I don't actually add them on at this point, but it's when I look back at the card I feel that those 2 corners are missing something, so I'll add them in later and you'll see that in the images at the end. I'll finish up now with my Wink of Stella sparkle pen, and as well I'll add some glossy accents to the flower in the girl's hair and dot it around. So that's that card. And now we're moving on to card 4, a Z-fold card. And this measures 12 by 6, and again I scored it at 3 and 6. And this will give us our Z fold to our card. I'm going to use some of this green patterned paper. It looks like glitter paper, but it's not. And I'm going to put those on each sides of our panels here. I'm going to put on this white piece of card, and this piece measures 5 1/2 by 5 1/2. I went a little bit smaller for this piece, and you can see I have embellished it already. I've used the little stamps that come in the kit, the little coffee cup and the little clover, or shamrock as I like to call it. So I have stamped that there. On the left hand side I've taken a strip of the patterned paper and a teeny tiny strip of the orange cardstock, and I've put that on the inside. I have this orange square which measures 4 1/2 by 4 1/2, and the patterned paper measures 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, and that will go on the front of our card, and when the card is closed it will sit there and it'll be framed between the green pattern paper and our white card. Here I'm using a piece of ephemera that came in the kit. I have fussy cut around it and I have put some foam tape on the back to give a little bit of dimension. Again, I have stamped the So Lucky sentiment and used the dies to die cut that out, and I'm going to put that on the front of the card. It's a little bit hard to pick up, like that. Perfect. I will also use some of the glitter enamel dots that came in the card, and I'll punch out a couple of little hearts the same color as our cardstock, the orange, and put them around the front of the card as well. Okay, so let's speed everything up now and assemble our card. For this card, I'll again use my art glitter glue to stick everything down. I don't know if you can hear in the background, I have my two dogs set beside me. Ghost is set to the left of me on his bed in front of my little heater, and Buster is set just under my table on his little bed, and he's the one that's snoring. And I haven't got the heart to put them out of the room while I'm doing the voiceover because they like to be near me. So I do apologize if you can hear snoring sounds or footstep sounds. That's my two little boys here keeping the mom company. Okay, so now I have everything stuck down except for this front panel, and you'd see there that I only put glue on the left hand side. That's because I only wanted to stick down to that green patterned paper. I'm going to put down my piece of ephemera now. I have lots of foam tape behind that. I want to make sure that it is raised up evenly on the card. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to stick down my So Lucky sentiment, and I'm just using the glue for that because there's enough dimension on the card with the ephemera raised up. So I'm going to put some of the enamel dots on, and these are lovely glittery enamel dots. I'm going to put 3 in the bottom left hand corner and then 2 there beside the cup underneath the lucky. Again, I'm going to put some hearts to embellish the card, and I have 3 on the front, and I'm going to stick them down using my liquid glue, and then I'm going to put 1 on the inside panel, the white panel, and I'm going to put it down there at the bottom right hand side, and I want to make sure that when I close it you can still see my little heart. I'm going to take some of my Winkostella and I'm going to embellish the hearts, the ephemera piece, as well as the So Lucky sentiment. Once I've that done, I'll then take some Glossy Accents and I'll go over the hearts as well as my coffee cup and my shamrock. And now we're on to our final card, card 5. And this is the card that we're going to make. We're going to use different pattern papers, but we're going to make a wiper card. I had a video recorded for this and I deleted it by accident. So there you go. I'm going to make another one. You can see along here I've used some of the washi tape to embellish the panels. I have the ephemera piece here of the person holding a coffee cup. They do have a stamp for this in the kit, but I didn't want to take the time out to colour it in. So I'm going to use this piece of ephemera, and I have stuck a 2-inch circle. I've punched out a 2-inch circle and I've stuck it on the back of this piece of ephemera. So it's going to do the same thing as my coffee cup there, my person with the coffee cup. Okay, so I have a card base and it measures 8 by 6. I've scored it at 6 and at 7. And I've used the washi tape, as I said, to embellish that. And you can see there the join is going to be at the front of the card, not at the back, because our front panel is going to hide those joins where we have put those 3 pieces of washi tape. So you can see here this piece will go on the front and it measures 8 by 2 and I've scored it at 1 and 2, and again I've put the washi tape on. I've made sure that my washi tape is going to line up there on the left hand front piece, but I'll have some pattern paper on the other panels. I didn't bring the washi tape the whole way up on the back. I didn't think it needed it, but you can see there now, you won't see where the washi tape is joined together. Okay, so let's move on. I have this piece of patterned paper and it measures 4 3/4 by 5 3/4, and it's going to sit in there like that. This piece of patterned paper measures 1 3/4 by 5 3/4, and then I have these 2 strips. This offcut came off the pattern paper I cut there, and I want to put it on the back of my card like this one. But I had this leftover strip of this what looks like glitter card, but there's no glitter on it, so I'm going to layer these 2 pieces on the back and add my sentiment to the back. Again, I've stamped and die cut out my sentiments So Lucky, and I've used my VersaFine toffee ink to stamp that out. And you can see here they come separately, the two words, and they have two separate dies to die cut those out. I have again taken one of the girls' ephemera pieces, and I'm going to have this as my pop-up, and I've fussy cut again around that to give it a much thinner border. In the kit we get these wooden embellishments. They're little shamrocks or clovers, and I've taken two of my zigs and I've coloured in a couple of them in the different colour greens, and over the top of them I've used my Glossy Accents to give that shiny finish. This piece here is our mechanism piece, and this piece measures 3 inches by 1 3/4, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see what I've done on this piece. I have measured up 1 inch from the bottom left corner and put a little pencil mark. I've measured 1 inch across along the bottom and again put another little pencil mark there. And what I will do then is I will join those two pencil marks up with a score line, and that will allow our mechanism to slide up and down. I've also put some red liner tape across this corner, and that's going to adhere to our card base. So my two ladies are going to sit on the mechanism, and then when it pops up, they'll slide up. So let's speed everything up now and assemble our card. Again, I'm going to use my liquid glue, my art glitter glue, to glue down my panels. Lovely. Now I'm going to fold my score lines and burnish them using my bone folder. So we've 2 on the main card base and we have 2 on this front panel. First I'll stick down my pattern paper and then I will fold these. So I want to make sure I fold them the right way. So we're going to have a valley and a mountain fold. And again, I'll burnish those, making sure that they're nicely folded down. Okay, so on the one panel there, I'm going to glue that down to the base of the card and line everything up there with the corner. And again, I'm going to do the same on the right hand side. I'm going to glue that down, making sure again it lines up on the bottom right hand corner. I have a little bit overlapping there, so I'll trim it off with my scissors. Now again, I've zoomed in. I want to show you how the mechanism gets attached. So I'm going to take off the release paper on my mechanism. Once I've that done, I'm going to fold that little flap away from me. I'm going to slide it right up against the score line there where you can see my thumb. You'll see it there. And just moving a little bit over. Once I've made sure that's in properly, I'm going to then fold the whole thing closed. So that little flap will fold down. It's pressed right up against that score line, and that will fold flat in, and I've slowed it right down so you can see where I'm pinching it between my thumb and forefinger and then pressing down on the card base. I hope that shows you and explains clearly. You can always rewind that little part and re-watch it again. Now I want to trim my mechanism down. Because of the shape of the girls, I don't want any of the mechanism to be seen. So I'm going to mark with a pencil where I want to cut it off, and then I'll be able to glue my girls down. So I've cut a piece off from the right hand side, and now I'm going to cut a piece off from my left hand side. But I want to make sure that my girls don't come up too far, otherwise you'll see them out the top. So now they're going to sit nicely on the mechanism and you won't see any of the mechanism. I'll use my liquid glue so I can put the girls on, but you can see here their heads aren't sticking out the top or the bottom of the front panel. And the little liquid glue gives you a little wiggle room there to make sure. Okay, so I'm happy with where they're set. I'm going to now look at the placement of my sentiment as well as my wreath panel. And the wreath panel is there just to kind of hide the girls behind, even though you can't see them when the card is closed. I still like the idea of that being there. So I'm putting glue on my wreath panel, and I'm only putting glue on the bottom half because the top half of that is going to be free floating and I don't want it to stick to anything. And then I'm going to take my strips of patterned paper and glue them to the back. And they're the full length at the back so that they match the washi tape that I've used. And I'm going to overlap this bigger panel on the smaller panel there. Now I'm going to add my little wooden pieces, my little wooden shamrocks. And I've done a couple of these, but I'm only going to use 3 of them on the front. I'm going to put them around the bottom front panel there, and I'm going to stick them down using my hot glue. I want to make sure they don't come off. So I've die cut out an oval panel, and this oval panel is 3.5 inches by 2.5 inches. And I'm going to stamp a sentiment from my stash, and this sentiment is from one of Lizi's previous card kits. It's the Enjoy the Little Things stamp set, and I have stamped down one of a kind on this. I'm going to embellish that sentiment using again the little shamrock, and I'm going to use the 3 different colored inks that'll pick up the colors on the card. I'll use my liquid glue and I'm going to stick that on the back. Now you don't have to die cut out a panel, you could just stamp down your sentiment on the back of the card, but I just thought it picked up some of the wreath shape to the back of the card. I'm going to add some sparkle to the card using my Wink of Stella, and this is a clear glitter pen. And I'm going to put that around the wreath as well as on the girl's hair and the So Lucky word. I'll take my Glossy Accents and I'm going to put that over the girls' flowers in their hair. I'm going to dot the center of each of our clovers on our patterned paper, and I'm also going to do all the green clovers or shamrock on the wreath, but I'll do that later on. So that's our 5th card, our wiper card, all done and dusted, and I love this. I hope I've explained this easy enough for you to understand and make your own. You can make your card size any size you like. It doesn't have to be a 6 by 6, what I've made here. But I hope you've got enough of the understanding for the mechanism so you can use it on any side card. So that's it, we've finished. Now I'm going to leave you with some images of the cards we made. I hope you've enjoyed my tutorial. If you have, please click on the like button and give my video a thumbs up. If you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing, and if not, you might consider clicking on the bell icon, and that way you'll be notified when I make another video, and it doesn't cost you anything. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and thanks for watching.